You know, sometimes when you entertain friends, you have to put on your Sunday best. I don't often entertain formally, but sometimes you have to kind of bump it up for certain occasions. So in this case, we're having a little wedding brunch, friends getting married, and I'm setting the table for 6. And I just thought I might go through some of the things that I've done to put this table together. It looks really pretty, but if you look closely, you'll find that the things that I've used on this table, well, they've come from a wide range of places, believe me. You know, for a luncheon and daytime, I wanted just to use a bare table and use placemats rather than a tablecloth. If I was doing it at night, I'd probably be a little more formal and do a tablecloth. And I like seeing the color of the wood of the table. It reflects with some of the art in the room. And that brings me to the flowers. The flowers are flowers I gathered. I got a lot of the greenery out of the garden. And then the tulips, they just happen to be blooming this time of year. As you can see, I kept the arrangements really low. The idea is that you want your guests to be able to talk to one another, either from right to left or across the table. I have 3 places set on each end. Now, if I had 8, I would have placed someone here, and probably done something a little lower in the center. Since no one is sitting across from one another here, the soup tureen is just fine. The soup tureen matches these 2 containers with the flowers in them, and between them I have a pair of silver candlesticks with these hurricane globes over them. Now let's just take a moment and back away and talk about the big picture for just a moment. You see, I think that when you set a table, it really ought to feel like the room. So if you look at the artwork on the walls, there's a color echo going on between these flower arrangements that are full of yellows, greens, apricots, and a bit of orange. And you see that in these 2 big fruit paintings on either side. So when guests come in, you immediately feel a sense of harmony, not only on the table itself, but its overall surroundings. So it's just something to keep in mind. And then with these dishes, what I've done here is I'm just using a plate that I bought actually in a second-hand sale. These are originally from Williams-Sonoma. They were $8 a piece, and I was fortunate to get a dozen of them. So they're brand new. And then what I'm using are these antique cold port plates. They're English from about 1810, and those are actually going to be the plates that we serve the luncheon on. So I'm placing one of those in each one of these charger plates. So let's move in a little closer and take a look at each place setting. We just talked about the plate itself. Let's talk about the flatware. I have an entree fork on the left, I have a knife on the right, and a spoon for soup on the right of that, and at the top a fork for dessert, which will be a pie. And then what I've done here is I've made sure that my water glass is at the tip of the knife, and then we've got a wine glass, which is just a contemporary stemless wine glass, next to this, which has beautiful texture. It's a thistle pattern. It looks very old and antique, but they're really not. You see, mixing things up really makes a difference. I didn't have enough bread plates of all the same pattern, so there's 2 different patterns of bread plates going around here, but they do have a similar sort of color that works very much with this main course plate that you see here. And then these little placeholders, I bought them in a shop, but they were extremely affordable. And I just love the simple classic look of them, and I've used them for years. They come in really handy. If you take a look at the placemats, these are linen placemats, but rather than having the matching napkins, I just used these old damask napkins that I had on hand, had just enough for the 6 guests here. Okay, with the table pretty well set, it's time to finish it off with just a couple of other details. I'll be right back. Of course, I want to bring some water in, and I'm using the same pitcher that matches the water glasses with that thistle design on it. And I always like to place a water pitcher or anything that has a liquid in it on a saucer. And again, I'm using a different saucer yet from the bread plates that are already around the table. And then I've just brought some wine in as well, and I like to use these old wine coasters. You can find them from time to time. This is an English-made one, and you can see they have a wood bottom on them, and often they'll have a felt bottom, and in this case, they're just felt dots to make sure you don't scratch the top of your table. And then I just take these wine crafts. These are actually water bottles. This is actually a pair, and I love the rib pattern on it. And these actually happen to have the stoppers with them, which was really a nice find. So I love to use these when I set a little more of a formal table. Now when it comes to placing people at the table, that's always a little iffy. I always try to go boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl. I try to place people next to one another that don't really know each other, so I try to split up couples. Also try to put introverts next to extroverts, and if two people don't really like one another, and you know that, I try to put them at opposite ends of the table. You know, I'd love to know what you think of this style piece. So anyway, love to hear from you. Got to go check on my guests now.